This is Realty Talk with Ellie and Gaelan. Welcome to episode 62 of Realty Talk with
Ellie
and Gaelan. When you kind of paused there, I was going to say Elizabeth. So the topic today, actually, Ellie, we always just like dive right into it. So give us do you have an echo or does yours sound good?
Mine sounds fine.
You know what's crazy? So I press on my ears like this, and it sounds way better. And then talk, and then let it go a little bit. I got to get better ear things that go over your ears, not on them, so it wraps around.
Makes sense.
Sorry, folks. We're just picking apart the equipment here. So, Ellie, how's life been? Because I think it's been a couple. 2.
Yeah.
Last week I did solo.
I mean me. I haven't been too good at Realty Talks. I've been busy. Good.
So, okay, that's it. Just been good. Yeah, I've been good. Right now, the biggest thing I'm seeing right now in real estate is again lack of listings. So I find that this is the way. Typically, what happens in a normal week for me is I get here Monday, all pepped up, ready to go, and usually every day has a good balance of appointments. What I'm finding now is I will go a day or 2 days with like really nothing, maybe like 1 or 2 showings, which is not a lot. And then all of a sudden I'll get like a house will finally come on and I'll get like five or 6 people that say, I want to go look at it. And it's like, okay, which is fine. It's just it's logistically trying to get people in these homes because you're working around schedules. But then you go realize like there's like 5 spots left for showings tomorrow because there's so many people that want to see it that all the spots are taken. So then you get into that kind of fiasco where it's like trying to get everybody in to actually do or actually able to see a home. That's been the hardest part. At least this month I've had a few where we have a hard time getting people in. I'm like, I can get you in tomorrow at like 8:30 to 9. Like that is literally the next showing that's available. The showings are booked up until that point. And that happened to me last week, which is crazy. I've never had that happen before where you try to actually go find a spot. So basically what happens, you guys can imagine a house on our MLS pops up. There's a little tab that you can request a showing. Then once you click on it, you pick the date, and then it gives a bunch of time slots. It's usually half-hour increments. I mean, you can go on some of these, and almost all of them, but like 4 or 5 spots are blacked out. And then it's like, okay, well, you can't go 11 to 12 or 1 to 2 or 3:30 to 4, and you want to go in the evenings, and there's none in the evening. So then it becomes this like you're like 3 days out before like your time slot is even open to go. That's been kind of a challenging thing. And then you try to get in like one spouse over the other spouse or whatever couple or whatever that's looking at it. You might have to do 2 showings with them at different times based on work schedules, and it gets kind of chaotic. So I'm hoping that we get some more listings where there's a little bit more, equilibrium. Because like this spikes in the market are just. You might have nothing going on all of a sudden that morning. Next thing you know, you have 3 showings that night that you never planned for because and the thing is you can't push them off because it's like it will be pending tomorrow. So at least want to have you guys get a chance to look at it and throw your offer in the ring with probably 4 other ones. So, okay, Ellie, what is your topic?
My topic is filtering online leads. Hashtag find the weirdo.
Eliminate, yes, find the weirdo. So explain, what would that be?
Well, this just came up because with one of my more recent listings, I decided to boost a couple of my posts to try and spread the presence, outside of places like Zillow and Realtor.com, and quite successfully, I might add. But I got quite a lot of hits in many requests for showings or questions about the property, and there were. Whenever someone's reaching out to you online and it's not someone it's, especially, I guess, as a woman, it's, you want to make sure that when you're going to a property that's in the middle of nowhere, that you make sure the person has, genuine intent to buy. And I've found a pretty quick way to find out and then get them to back off. If someone seems a little off, I'll let them know that I need a pre-qual letter or that someone will be going with me because they're shadowing or whatever excuse that I make up. And 9 times out of 10, my gut is correct, and they say, "Oh, well, never mind." Like, Okay.
Really?
Oh yeah, I've had it happen several times.
Wow. So are these people,
Usually older men.
but they reach out how?
On my Facebook page, like it's to
Oh,
my
okay.
real estate page or my Instagram. Yeah.
So usually,
Or I've had a couple text, but usually it's not over text.
yeah. So usually, like the way you can ballpark it, like when you're talking about filtering, the hardest part with real estate is because we're both in the office and outside the office. So sometimes you know, ideally you would meet every single client at your office prior to going out and showing them homes.
Yeah.
I know that doesn't happen for 90+% of agents, most likely.
Never done that.
Is that, like, I've done it with some people. Some people, if I think they're sketchy, I will have them come here. I'll be like, well, actually, here's what we do. We have you come to the office first. A lot of the people, though, you kind of know prior to showing them stuff, or you talk to them on the phone and you kind of filter out based on the conversation. They're a little more genuine, or the leads you potentially get that they just reached out and some agent contacted them. Then they're not even reaching out to a specific agent. They're just reaching out.
Yeah.
The rule of thumb is if you get an Instagram message, a direct message off of Facebook, a direct text or something saying, hey, I want to buy a home with you, and you're probably in your first year or two, most likely, and you don't know who they are, most likely it's probably something that you should have a little bit of, at first you're going to feel flattered because you're going to be like, oh my God, someone wants to work with me. And that's why I asked, like, where are you getting them? Like my Facebook, my Instagram,
Mostly Facebook.
Yeah. So, but what can they do? Like the thing is, real estate, they can see you. They can like, okay, there's a young lady, like here's her Facebook page, you know, and I find that can happen where, you know, if especially, you know, obviously old dudes or whatever, like attractive young lady, like I'm going to reach out to her, have her show a house to me. And then it's like, okay, well, that's when I would have kind of that red flag, which is good. You have like naturally, I think most people, I think hopefully will have some type of intuition, but it's tough when you're a first time agent because like, man, he wants to go look at a house and he's, oh, you want to look at how much? Okay, great. And there was a few years ago, this happened locally in our area, that a guy I think was actually going out to houses with young female agents, and some agents actually drove the client to they drove this guy to the house. And again, high priced homes. From what I heard, they were high priced homes and they were vacant, like bad warning sign altogether. So usually, like rule of thumb in the office is if you're going to meet a client for the first time, bring somebody like buddy system, whether it's, you know, another agent, whether it's a spouse, whether it's whatever. And I know
Rottweiler.
Whatever you want to do, you know. So I think that's a smart thing. But yeah, it's always a rule of thumb. If somebody's just randomly rolling up on you, like, and what will happen down as you get more established, and some of those people will be legitimate. They'll be like, hey, listen, I've listened to your podcast. I saw you. You know, I saw you, or I follow you on social media, and I like your Instagram page, and you seem like you know.
In context, most of them were directly reaching out about a specific property. Yeah, it was just this one in particular just really seemed off to me, and as soon as I usually recommend a pre-qualification letter anyways, just because it makes everyone's lives easier, including the buyers. But specifically him, I said, just so you know, before we go see the property, I need you to send me a pre-qual letter. And he said, well, actually, it's going to be cash. I'm like, that's great. I just need evidence of the
proof of funds. Yeah,
proof of funds. And he said, no, never mind.
Yeah. And at the end of the day, it's like, even if he was legitimate, it's not worth it.
I don't care.
That's not worth it. Anything else on filtering online leads? Anything that you have?
No, I mean, I guess it doesn't even really apply to online leads, just anybody. Sometimes if it's just a guy, I might Google him too first, just to see if anything comes up.
I've done that. I Facebook search people.
I've not with this job, but with a different job where I had to go meet people. I found some really horrifying things and then had someone else go instead of me.
Yeah, I mean, I think just because you're dealing with people from the public and people are all different, and you don't
all sorts of people. Yeah,
and you don't really know. And I mean, as you get more into the business, like it gets a little easier because you start getting more referrals and you start actually knowing the people like prior to going out and meeting them. So that becomes easier. But yeah, when you're starting out, you're basically trying to get as many clients as you can any way you can. But there's also like, okay, red flag, like this doesn't seem like a safe situation. And like I said, go with your gut. Even if it's like, hey, you're on the fence, better off just saying, hey, I know I'm 100% safe by not going, or bringing a friend or a spouse or whatever, just to.
Yeah, usually I just 9 times out of 10 bring you.
Yeah. I mean, I've gone, I think, to a showing with every agent here for the most part.
Yeah.
I mean, definitely the younger, like the younger, newer agents and most of the female agents, we've been adamant on doing that. So
better safe than sorry. But
Yeah.
I mean, overall, I have not had. It's been a handful. I can think of a few, but not a terrible number.
I mean, that's something you'll deal with that I probably won't, and I probably haven't. So besides maybe the creepy old lady that makes comments, we've had those before, and they're always good. You give it back to them; they're fun. So the other thing, I was just Googling some random stuff because some of these are actually funny. Like if you just pop in like Google, and I think I put in what did I say? Mistakes that
the new
realtors make.
Common mistakes that new realtors make. That's what you said earlier.
Yeah, new realtors make. And it was kind of funny. I was like reading some of these. Because again, like, can you think of like what mistakes have you made? Because we can probably, I'm sure I can go over quite a few. But what is the worst thing that you think? Because obviously you're a little more new, that you're like, that was a really bad mistake as a first-time agent. You want me to just rattle off some while you think?
I honestly think the worst, like, dumbest mistakes I've made have just been expending a lot of time and energy on people who I had not vetted yet, as far as like qualification wise.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think, to the best of my knowledge, I don't think I've made any mistakes that affected a deal. Or at least if I have, I guess I didn't know. But I mean, for the most part, I had, if I did have questions or something I wasn't sure about, I would ask you. So I have not gone blind into anything.
I think mistake-wise for me, I've had mistakes. I've had minor mistakes on the phone.
Yeah.
I'm very confident on the phone now talking to new clients, existing clients, or whatever. When I first started, no. I mean, I made mistakes, and then there's times I'm like, oh my God, I totally butchered that. And those are fine. Those are like learning curves that you'll get over. All these things, mistakes get you better.
Yeah.
I remember there was a time, like, and again, I was a new agent. I was on floor time. Now, this is back in the day when we were up in Rouse's Point, so not Plattsburgh. The person called. We had a listing up in Dannemora, and they said something to the effect of like, hey, I want to look at the place in Dannemora. My daughter wants to see it. Or a place for my daughters. He said, sure, cool. Like, when can you see it? He goes, well, can you go today? And I'm like, I was on floor time. I was probably my first year in the business, I think. The house was vacant. And I'm like, sure. Like, well, Rouse's Point to Dannemora is a
hike.
45-minute drive at least to get up there. So I drove up 45 minutes, went to the showing. Whatever, showing lasted like 20 minutes. And they didn't want it. And then I was like, oh, do you want anything else? Like, no, it's just kind of that one home. And which is, I mean, at the end of the day, it's fine. Like, I had nothing else going on. So at that point, you're just running off to do anything.
Yeah.
But then I got to look at, like, I don't know if they were qualified. I don't know if they were serious. But that's what I'm talking about first, like, newer agents. Like, well, I have really no reason to say no.
Yeah.
And if I can run up now, I'm already kind of in the mode of doing real estate. Do I hold off and do something, like push them out till tomorrow? Makes 0 sense. So I've had
the what if factor.
Yeah, so I've had a few of those where you kind of laugh at now. You're like, well, I would never do that. But under the circumstance, if you're brand new, you would.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Oh, I had one the other day. This is great. I blame it, and I love Debbie to death. Debbie that we used to work with us. So Debbie, I don't know if she listens. If she does, hi B, I miss you. So Debbie, this was like years ago. I had a listing. I don't know how I got this listing, and it was a listing that I got, I think, my second or third year in the business, and it was in Keysville. I didn't know what property it was until like last year, because I'm like, I gotta Google and try to figure out what property I sold.
How did you not know? Can't you look it up?
Like the address, Ellie, the amount of stuff that I remember from like 20 to 25 is very limited.
Can
20
you
to
look
23.
it up on the MLS, like your history?
Well, no, it goes way after 7 years.
Oh, it does? I didn't know that.
So what happened is, like, for some reason, my 20s to like 23, 24-ish, I don't remember a lot. It wasn't because I was like high through college. I just legit don't remember that part of my life for some reason. I don't know. I just like, there wasn't like a lot of big events that happened. So I don't know. It was like a weird time.
Sense.
So real estate started during that time. So like my early years of real estate, it's like it could have been another lifetime ago. Like it just seems so foreign to me compared to like the last 5 years or so. So then Okay, so here's the story. Had this listing, don't remember where the heck this place is. Found out where it was last year. Actually drove by the house during quarantine. I had to drive down. I forgot where it was. It was down in Keysville, and I had, for whatever reason. And I think it's this way. I took a drive, and I found it. And I was like, oh, that's amazing. Like, this is where it was. This is really cool. I love this area. Didn't know at the time. I was like clueless. Probably had never been to Keysville in my life before this point. So the closing happened, and it was in Essex County. The buyer is from Essex County. The buyer was working with an agent out of Lake Placid. So naturally, the closing was in Lake Placid. So we basically had to give the co-broke check to the buyer. Like, we were getting the check from the seller as a listing company. We were giving the co-broke check to the buyer. So I drove to Lake Placid for a closing. I was there for 15 minutes. I got a check, and I handed the check to an agent that I don't even remember her name, and I don't remember what she looked like. Nothing. Like, totally spaced out. I don't even know. There's some lady from Lake Placid. And thinking about it, I'm like, why did I drive? Like, nowadays, I'd be like, no, like, mail me the check.
Yeah.
Like, mail me the check. We'll mail you ours. I'm not driving out for 15 minutes to pick up a check.
Lake Placid, yeah.
So it was fine. Lake Placid's a good trip, whatever. But I literally drove up, like, got a coffee and drove home. Like, I just wasted 3 hours of my day driving up there. So that was one of probably the dumbest things I ever did. Now I'm looking at it, and the only reason I know this because I drove by the attorney's office Monday, and I was in Lake Placid, and I drove by, and I was like, that totally reminded me. I'm like, I think there's a real estate or attorney's office right here, and sure enough, there it was because I made a dumb mistake. I just blame Debbie because Debbie said I had to go get the check out, and I was like, Debbie was old school, so I was like, now I've been like, no, I'm not. Like, I would never do it now, but back then I was like totally clueless. I'm like, oh, I got to go. Crap, I got to drive to Lake Placid for this closing.
That makes sense.
So that was my worst birthday. No, that was my
no, my worst birthday.
that was probably one of the worst mistakes. And obviously you have like minor ones here and there with stuff. I remember some guy in the city. This is funny. His wife was really nice. He was kind of a prick, but he ended up like I looked at his house, and then he had a lot next door, and he goes, "Well, how much is the lot worth?" And I forgot what I said. I don't even remember. And he was like ranting and raving. I'm like, dude, one, you have the house. Two, you never even told me there was a side lot. So I had going in blind that you were planning on selling the side lot with the house. You never mentioned it. So when I was there, like, oh, we also have the side lots on a different deed. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. Like, how much is the city lot going for? I'm like, I don't know off the top of my head because how often do we deal with city lots? There's not many city lots for sale.
Yeah.
And to be honest, they're all over the place in price.
Yeah.
Probably, I don't know, it probably was like 50, 60, 70, 80 grand, somewhere in that range. And I don't even remember what I told him, but he was like beside himself that I told him this number. And I'm like, dude, and I told him like 2 or 3 times, I'm like, dude, I said, I don't know. I have to comp it out. I don't want to give you a price because I haven't done any homework. Yeah. That's like, how much is my home worth? And I've never stepped in the house. Yeah. I'm like, I don't know. I got to go look at it. Let me get a chance to kind of figure out what I think would be the best place to list at. So needless to say, they actually still haven't sold these people. This was 3 years ago, maybe.
Wow.
And they've never seen the house come through. They're obviously not going to use me, I'm assuming. Yeah. His wife was really nice, so maybe. She told me not to bother with him because he was old and grumpy, but she was kind of like this cute old lady, and he was just like a prick, and I'm like, it was just one of those deals. So you get to have the fun clients. Yeah. Anything else you can think of?
I thought of 2 while you were talking. One was actually pretty recent, and it was the top producer debacle. So top producer is our client management system, and I didn't realize that after I think like 14 days or 7 days or something, my like stuff that I had to do would just disappear. So I would get on and
it's done.
Yeah. And so I would get like every now and then I would go a few days without checking, and then something would fall off. And then, so I had like just a scattering of like a client or 2 in February and a client or 2 in March that I hadn't responded to. And
meanwhile, I was checking it.
Yeah. So you messaged me like, hey, I see you haven't done anything in a while. And I checked and I saw that I hadn't responded to anyone. I hadn't made any calls that week. And I was like, oh, what, like, darn, yeah, that's a good point. And so I apologized and I fixed it. And then I went on with my day. And then about a month later, I discovered that I could look back even farther. And I saw like 20 people that had added up over the last 6 months. I mean, none of them were live. Like they were pretty much dead leads. But still, I had no idea. So I had been going all this time just basically dropping people off.
Well, I kept like sending stuff to you. And I'm like, what the hell? I'm like, Ellie's usually pretty good. And I'm like looking at it. And I'm like, you're behind like 3 months. And you're like, okay, I'll get to it. And all of a sudden, I'm like, Ellie, like a week later, I'm like, you're still like a month, and like, well, I made some calls and I'm like catching up, and we were just looking at two different screens.
Yeah.
So we were like both right. We just weren't on the same page. And then
I was like, oh, I got it all. I sat down one day. I made that whole week's worth of calls. I caught up, and then turns out I had months and months left behind that. And another mistake I made was another lead mistake. And it was when I first started, and I was just calling whatever general leads, not someone I had spoken to before, and I was after a long day at work, and I just said, went to voicemail. Hi, this is Elizabeth with Friends of the shoot. Because I just used to talking in my other job, and then I immediately called back and left another voicemail. They never responded.
I've done that before, where like I'll say Gaelan with Kavanaugh, and I realize I'm calling someone not for Kavanaugh. Like, it might be my apartment or might be something else. I'm like, hey, Gaelan with Kavanaugh here, and they're like, shoot.
Oh, I realize you don't care what my job is.
No, and I also said yesterday, I was talking to an agent, and he said something. Oh, he answers the phone. I called him. No, he called me. I don't know, whatever it was. I answered the phone, and he goes, hey, how's it going? And I'm like, hey, it's Gaelan. I'm like, okay, sorry. I'm like, my bad. You probably knew that, right? Because it was on the call. He's a good dude, another agent. So he was laughing about it. And then I said, I'm also still the same guy that will call your cell phone and say, call me back, and will leave you my number. Like,
yep, I do that all the time.
Call me back at my number. And then I'm like,
everyone knows it by now.
Well, it's just, yeah. But it's the idea that, like, I'm calling your cell phone. Obviously, everybody's cell phone captures the number.
Yeah, it's
and as soon as you hear the voicemail like Gaelan, you just hit call back. I still do. I mean, a lot of people still do that.
I do that too.
But I think it's our generation, because we had to do that back in the day.
I'll even do it in texts, which makes no sense. I'll be like, can you give me a call? I text back at 315.
My number is 518. I'm like, the number you text me from? Yes, that number. Same one I'm sending you. Just random stuff. I'm also, when people ask, I never really have my card. I have my card on me at times, but I don't always have enough.
I almost never do.
And usually, it depends. If I have like my binder, I do. Or if I'm in my car, I can go grab it. If I'm at like an after hours, like chances are I don't have a card unless I like remind myself to grab a stack of cards. Yeah. So the other thing too is I typically don't even get cards from people. I'm just like, what's your email? And I just email my contact info, because it's all there. It's in my email. So I just email them, just say, Gaelan Trombley's contact info, and I just send it to him.
Yeah.
So that's usually the best way I find, because then I can just get it on an email and I don't have to carry around a card.
Yeah.
Even though my cards are the best.
They are.
Dope. I tell people, I said, you can paddle across Lake Champlain with my cards. Part joking, part serious. They're thick.
If they were bigger.
Watch yourself.
Maybe if you taped a bunch of them together.
Watch yourself.
Could use them like a fin.
And just snap them, just break them like a Chinese or Japanese karate person. All right. Office quote. Okay, this is what we're going to do, because I did this the other day. Office quote of the day and or fun fact of the day. I think we should change it up.
What was my fun fact last time? I think it was about rabies.
Do you have...
I don't have a rabies-related fun fact. No.
Like a fun fact that people wouldn't know, that you'd be like, oh, that's really cool. Like one I did the other day was like why they called a cup of Joe coffee. And I stole it from another podcast.
I actually know. I don't remember what it was now, but my mom just brought that up the other day and sent me a link to why. I don't remember why.
Okay, so I got two fun facts. Fun fact number one is why do you shake your hand? Two things. They tie in together. Why do you shake hands with your right hand?
Because I was taught to.
True. But also, you shake hands with your right hand, and if I'm wrong, you can fact check me, but I think I'm right. If you go to shake hands, that's like the most douchey thing. Like, fact check me, but I'm right. I might be wrong, but just fact check me. If you go to shake hands with somebody, in like wartime, you would shake hands saying like, I surrender, or good match, or whatever. The reason you did is because where was your sword? Your sword typically was on your left hip. So the only way to pull your sword out was with your right hand. So by extending
makes sense.
your right hand, it meant I'm not pulling my sword on you.
I always assumed it was because most people are right-handed.
It could be, but
It's not because most of us are right-handed. That is actually. Oh, hang on. That site does not look reliable. One moment.
Is it more reliable than what I just said?
No. That site.
Right?
The site was saying what you say, but it didn't look like a accurate.
So this
site,
is all just fake news.
Oh, hang on. I'm googling
because they have like the sword on the right, like usually in your right hip. So you would draw your sword out of what is it called? The sword, like the sheath.
Sheath. Yeah.
You pull it out of the sheath with your right hand. And then you go all Braveheart on them. But instead, if it's there and you you stick your hand out and shake your hand.
You know, usually actually when I go to shake hands, I extend my left hand.
Do you really?
But I'm left-handed.
Oh, I thought you were going to say, usually when I pull my sword out, I pull with my left hand.
Well, I mean, I guess if I had a sword, it would have to be on my right side.
Would you mix it up? But so, is that right? Did you find that?
Hang on. It looks like it... I don't know because the handshakes happen all over the world. And I'm seeing lots of pictures of it being done.
So the other fun fact, and I think I remember who told me this. So the reason why is that face so grotesque?
I'm just human handshakes serve as a means of transferring social chemical signals between shakers. There's a tendency to bring the shaken hands to the vicinity of the nose and smell them. This may serve an evolutionary need to learn about the person whose hand was shaken, replacing a more overt sniffing behavior as is common among animals.
So if I was to I would shake your hand and sniff my hand
I don't think I have ever sniffed my hand after shaking someone's hand.
I never have.
I'm gonna watch next time I go to a networking event. I'm gonna watch everybody and I'm gonna see if I catch anyone sniffing their hand.
You know what's gonna happen? We're gonna see like 10 people be like, what are you doing?
I don't see anything in this about right hand being swords, but I mean that does make sense.
So the other one, the reason is ties in. The reason someone gives the finger to somebody, so the bird, the old FU, whatever you want to say, to give the finger. The reason was because back in the day, when you would pull back your arrow to shoot your arrow, again, like wartime back, like centuries ago, they'd pull their arrows back. But I believe, I could be wrong, you draw it back typically with your middle finger, and then you would release it. Okay? So basically, they would put their finger up saying, like, F you, I can still shoot you with an arrow, because that's the way they drew the arrow to shoot them. Which I guess doesn't really make sense, because I think you could pull it back with other fingers, but I think it's you pull it back with your middle finger.
I can't imagine
and drop it.
Using a battle arrow. You know how with your one
like
finger?
Like a bow and arrow?
With one finger?
No, there's a bow and arrow you put on, like you have the bow, and you have the arrow.
Know. Yeah, and you pull back that drawstring with one finger.
Yeah, you usually wrap it around this finger. You pull it like this, and you snap it off.
I have to Google this now.
Am I wrong?
That seems kind of bullshitty to me.
I think you pull it back like this, and you snap it. Maybe I'm wrong. Fact check these folks.
Wait,
this is fun fact. These are fun fact that you should fact check.
Snopes. Snopes is Snopes reliable? I don't know.
I've never even heard of it, but
Snopes is a well-known debunking site. It did not derive from English archers. No. Okay, well, think about, have you ever used like a hunting bow?
Yes.
Okay.
No, I haven't. But go ahead.
Okay. Well,
like a bow, like if you're talking like a crossbow,
like a hunting bow, like something you have to pull back.
Yes, but I'm not talking like I'm not talking like new school like
no,
bow
I'm
hunting.
talking like an actual hunting bow.
Yeah.
Like a bow, like a curved bow with a thing.
Yes.
Yeah. So
like
in
Indians,
order to have the amount of whatever the right word is, drive to put an arrow 100 yards ahead and through a person, it has to be really, really taut. There's no way you're doing that with one finger.
Well, no, but you pull it back like you.
No, you would have to do it with multiple fingers.
You pull it like
I can't imagine.
They were stronger back then. Genetically stronger.
Snopes says that is not the reason.
Give me the reason why the middle finger is the middle finger. We're gonna be really bad at fun facts. This is now turned into a myth debunking podcast.
Oh wait, no, this one actually uses a different middle finger reason for bow and arrow people. Oh no. Oh, listen to this. Wait.
I can't wait to actually you are right.
No, you are wrong. You are wrong. It did say that they would cut off middle fingers after losing battles to make it harder to draw a bow.
Yes.
That makes sense.
Yes.
But that's not why they did middle fingers.
Yeah, but they would cut their fingers off.
That's not.
So then they would show the finger up
That's
like,
not
I still
where it
got my middle
originated
finger. Come get me.
It made no military sense whatsoever for the French to capture English archers and then mutilate them by cutting off their fingers. That makes sense. They'd probably just kill them. Okay, well, this entire article is just saying why it's stupid to say that they would cut off their middle fingers and that they could still
It might
do
be
whatever
stupid,
they
but is
needed
it
to
true?
do. No.
So please fact check us. We don't want to drag this out any longer. I think I'm 30% think I'm right. Send comments, questions, or debunking myths to either Ellie or I.
I need to know where it originated now. I don't know.
Okay. Well,
Okay.
two things. If you know why the middle finger is the middle finger and why people shake hands with the right hand, if you have another theory or a better theory, please send it to us. And then also, if you send it to us, please cite your source that you're getting your theory from.
Yes, sources are important.
My sources were passed down from other people, so they were secondhand
The
sources,
most accurate source of all sources.
more so than the internet.
Yes.
So, all right, that's it. Episode 62, Realty Talk. We're going out to debunk more myths.